very few people hang in there for 3 years or 5 years. And so that's really where the money is made and where you're going to get like the best of the best partners.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future content. Now let's get started with the episode. Welcome back to Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today's guest is an expert in Amazon Wholesale who turned his side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business. Corey Ganim left his corporate sales job in 2019 to sell on Amazon full-time. Since then, he has generated over $13 million in revenue and coached more than 1,100 students on how to succeed in the wholesale model. He is also the founder of the Wholesale Network, a community dedicated to helping Amazon sellers connect, learn, and scale. Through his company, BrandRocket, Corey helps tool and automotive brands maximize their sales on Amazon while eliminating unauthorized resellers and counterfeit products. We're going to explore his journey, strategies for growing a successful Amazon business, and the key trends shaping e-commerce today. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to diving in and talking all things e-commerce, so I appreciate it.
Great. Corey, before we start, can you share with us something that made you smile lately?
Yeah, definitely. So something that made me smile lately, probably yesterday morning, I had a breakfast with my grandmother she's elderly and, her health isn't the best, but we just had a good breakfast with me, my grandmother, my dad, my sister, and my aunt. For the first time in a while, we kind of all got together as a group, sat down and just hung out at my grandmother's house for about an hour and had a good meal. So that's, enough to make me smile on any good days.
It's nice.
Yeah.
You live like in the same area or like different places, different locations?
So they all live in my hometown, which is about an hour and a half from where I live. And unfortunately, I had calls pretty much all day yesterday. But I drove up about an hour and a half one way. We sat down for 30, 45 minutes at 8. And unfortunately, I had to drive right back. But, they know that I'll make a quick trip for them anytime, especially if my grandmother's cooking, right? She makes it us.
That's nice. It's always great to hear like family stories. I love it. So thank you for sharing this. So Corey, what made you quit your corporate job and start, and actually go all in on Amazon Wholesale?
Yeah. So, there's a number of reasons. There's one story that stands out particularly as far as why I actually made the final decision to quit. Call it the straw that broke the camel's back if you want. But in general, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been interested in starting my own business. I've always been interested in sales as well. So growing up, it's funny, I have vivid memories being very young and going door to door to every house in my neighborhood, always selling something. And it was anything from, I was going door to door selling these coupon books that my school, provided for us and would hold sales contests. Sometimes I'd go door to door. In college, I went door to door selling pressure washing services, right? Started a little pressure washing business. So I've always been a salesman at heart and always been an entrepreneur at heart. But there's one really moment in time in particular that stands out, which made me want to leave the corporate world for good. Now, this was back in 2019. So I had been working for IBM for about 2 years up to that point. I was in the sales program at IBM, got some really good sales training, met some really smart people there. But at the time, I was on a sales team. We're living in Chicago, and our whole team was based out of the Midwest, but not everybody was based in Chicago. So we had some team members were located in Minneapolis, some were in Ohio, I think we had a guy in North Dakota, but we were kind of all generally in the Midwest. Now, there was one happy hour that we were having at the Chicago office, right? This was maybe like a Thursday, 4 or 5 p.m., and this was just any random happy hour, right? We have these all the time. And I remember looking around the room and I saw a guy named John there. And John is my second line manager. So he was my manager's manager. John was, early 40s. As far as I understand, he's got a few young kids. But John is somehow at every event. He's at every networking event. He's at every happy hour. But John lives in Minneapolis. So I remember leaning over to my coworker. I'm like, why is John here? This is just a basic happy hour. We're only going to be here for like an hour, right? Why did he come all the way down here for this? And what my team member said to me at that point, it's burned into my brain. And this is really what flipped the switch in my mind as me thinking like, I've got to get out of this in some way. He said to me, he's like, well, Corey, honestly, you probably see John more than his own kids do. And I remember like right then and there, I was like, wow, he's so right. He's got to be right because I see John every week, but he lives hours away. So I'm sure I see him more than his kids do. And I remember right then and there, I'm like, all these people in this room, they're smart people. They're great people. They make really good money. But at the end of the day, they are just cogs in the wheel of this big company. And I don't want to look up 20 years from now, which, at this point was 7 years ago, and say to myself, well, I see my coworkers more than I see my own kids. So it was really that moment in time where I said, you know what? I've got to just take the plunge and do this Amazon thing full time and just jump in. Even though I wasn't really making hardly any money at all selling on Amazon at the time, it was one of those things where I liked the business. I enjoyed the business. I saw the potential and I just wanted to make a bet on myself. So that's exactly what I did.
Interesting. So it was like you thinking with yourself about how your life's going to look like, right? 20 years down the line. And also, you already had this Amazon store. You were passionate about the topic and I think you had enough confidence that you want to just jump in and start developing expertise around these topics, right? So it's a combination of a few things that make this happen.
Exactly. And also my thought process too at the time was, so I was 24 years old when I made this decision, right? And basically what I did is right around the 2-year anniversary of my work anniversary with IBM, I put in my 2 weeks notice. I threw all of my possessions into a truck. I was living in Chicago at the time. And I turned around and drove that truck back to Greensboro, North Carolina, which is my hometown. And I just moved it back in with my mom, right? And I was like, you know what? We're just going to figure this out. I'm just going to do this Amazon thing and figure it out. Now, my thought process was, well, if this Amazon thing crashes and burns, if I have nothing to show for it, I can always go and get another job, right? And I was thinking about it through the lens of, well, if I'm a recruiter and I'm trying to hire Corey Ganim for this job, and I look at his resume and I see, well, hey, he worked for this company for 2 years, but then he quit to try something on his own. And now he's looking for a job. If anything, I want to hire that kid, right? Because he took a bet on himself. Even if it didn't work out, I want to hire the types of people who are proactive and who take those smart risks. So that was always my fallback. I'm like, worst case, and I can just go and get another job.
Nice. So what happened, during these 7 years? What do you have on your plate today?
Yeah. So I guess that was 2019. Yeah. So just almost 7 years is when I made that decision, but quite a few things have happened, right, over that time period for the better. So over that period of time, at one point, right, I was right at the beginning, I was living at my mom's house. I was trying to get the business off the ground. And to really make, a 7-year story short, I have hired and trained and, fired and now retained, 20 plus virtual assistants over that period of time. I have built the business we've done over 13 million in lifetime revenue. A lot of the suppliers that we currently work with, a lot of the brands that we currently work with, we've been working with for 2 to 5 years, probably our best ones. So we've got really good relationships in place. And really this whole journey of selling on Amazon and building this business and then building the Wholesale network, which is our community of other sellers, and building my personal brand online, it's taught me so many just additional skills that are transferable to any other industry. So if I woke up tomorrow and said, hey, I want to get into XYZ, right, some completely different industry, I have the skills to do that. Learn how to sell, learn how to manage cash flow, learn how to manage people, learn how to talk to people, learn how to write. When it comes to social media, learn how to talk on video, kind of like we're doing right now, and learn how to connect with people and build rapport and follow up and do all these things, right?
Yeah, skills are so important, right? Something you don't learn so much in universities, right? So, right, let's try to define some basics here. What are the key differences between Amazon Wholesale and private label?
Yeah, great question. So most people, when they hear about selling on Amazon, they find out about the opportunity through a private label context, let's say, right? So private label is when you're creating and building and marketing an entirely new brand from scratch. So you're responsible for getting the product made, getting the packaging made, what's the brand name, pouring all your money into marketing, doing all these things, and then launching the product on Amazon. right? So that's private label. You're creating a new brand from scratch. Wholesale, which is my business model, is quite honestly, in my opinion, significantly easier because instead of me having to create a new brand from scratch, market that brand, build a whole customer base from zero, I'm just piggybacking on the demand for these brands that already exist, right? In my mind, why would I spend 6 to 9 months developing my own brand that I don't even know if people are going to like or buy when I could just go and buy, let's say, these Apple AirPods, right, from a distributor and then turn around and sell them on Amazon because people are already searching for Apple AirPods. The demand is already built in. So it turns from a game of branding and marketing, mainly, which is what private label is, to more of a game of sales and prospecting and follow-up, which is what wholesale is. Because a lot of our business is built on building relationships with these distributors or directly with these brands so that they then trust us to sell their products and represent their products in a good light on Amazon. Does that make sense? Kind of the difference? I know you understand the difference, but obviously want to make sure the audience is getting a clear distinction there.
Yes, I think it was a great definition because you've added another layer of analyzing the demand and look at the data
Right.
before approaching brands, right? So can you share more information about that? Because I think it's a fundamental aspect of the whole process.
Yeah. So, like I said, with wholesale, in its simplest form, right? Obviously, there's nuance that goes into it. There's research that goes into it. But in its simplest form, all I'm doing is I'm going on Amazon and I'm saying, hey, what are people already buying on Amazon and how much are they buying it for? And then I'm going back to either I'll go to the brand directly and ask them for what their wholesale price is, or I will find a distributor who sells that brand and ask that distributor, well, hey, what's the wholesale price on this specific product? Right. So at the end of the day, it's just arbitrage. It's like, well, hey, if I can buy the product from the brand for say $50, and let's say that product is selling on Amazon for $80, well, after I factored in my shipping and my Amazon fees and my overhead and all that good stuff, I might be making, let's say, $10 or $12 in profit per unit on that sale. And if I can sell 100 units a month or 200 units a month or 1,000 units a month, well, you can see that starts to be pretty significant in terms of the cash flow that can provide. And then you extrapolate that out across multiple products and multiple brands, basically your entire catalog. Then, some of these wholesale businesses, big ones, are doing a lot of revenue and pretty good profit as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's start maybe from the beginning. So I'm sure those brands are getting, hundreds of messages like every day. Hey, we want to sell you AirPods, right? So, what's your take on, approaching suppliers? How do you position yourself, when you make this initial outreach?
Yeah, great question. So much of my approach and so much of what I teach people is like, guys, let's just focus on getting a foot in the door with these suppliers, right? What I see a lot of people do, which honestly doesn't work, is when they make this initial outreach, either to a brand or to a distributor, they try and tell them their life story. And they try and pitch them, 10 different things. Like, hey, my name's Corey. I have this Amazon business. I want to do X, Y, Z. I want to help you guys grow on Amazon. I want to help you with your ads. I want to help you with your listings, all this stuff. When in reality, the brand doesn't even know who you are. So why would they trust you with such a big responsibility or entertain such a partnership proposal when you haven't provided them any value up to this point at all? So my approach and what's significantly more effective is when you're calling these suppliers, I keep it short and I keep it specific. Those two things, right? So my pitch to a distributor might be, if I get them on the phone, I might say, hey, my name's Corey Ganim. I own a retail business here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I see you guys carry brands X, Y, and Z. I actually love those brands. And I'm actually looking for these specific products from those brands. And I actually have the exact quantity here in a spreadsheet in front of me that I'm looking to buy. So is there somebody in your sales department that I can forward this order to and get a quote? And if pricing makes sense, we can place an order today. Does that work? You see how that's a lot more convincing to the person on the other line because they're like, okay, this guy told me who he is. His name's Corey Ganim. I know what he does. He works for a retail store in Charlotte, and he told me exactly what he wants. So to the person on the other end, it's like, it's no free money. It's free money. It just, this guy fell out of the sky and is offering to buy our products. Like, yeah, I'm going to take him seriously and I'm going to try to put him in touch with our salespeople. Now, does that approach work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Because anybody who's heard me talk about this process before knows that the best suppliers, they won't work with you on the first attempt. You could have a perfect pitch. You could build, an hour of rapport, but until they've really trusted you, until you really have proven your value, most of them are going to say, well, hey, we've already got our customers, right? We don't want to add more customers. We've already had too much business. The best suppliers and the best brands do. So the key lies in the follow-up, right? Checking in with them once every 2 weeks or once a month or once a quarter, however long is appropriate. And I will tell you, my very best brand, which, full transparency, profits me net profit, multiple 5 figures per month, took me 3.5 years of follow-up to land. So I initially called this brand. As all good brands do, they're like, no, we don't want to work with you. We already have our people. Sorry, but you can check in once a quarter, is what they told me. So I checked in once a quarter for 3.5 years. And 3.5 years later, the timing just so happened to work out where they said, well, hey, actually, one of our Amazon customers or one of our Amazon dealers, they actually went out of business. So we do have one spot available. And since you've been calling us for 3.5 years, you're on the short list and we'll give you the opportunity to pitch for that spot. So I was able to pitch for that spot and we got the position. And that was about 2 years ago, I think, when we finally closed them. And just this week, or I guess last Wednesday, a brand that I've been following up with for almost 5 years finally gave us a verbal commitment. We sent him the PO. But yeah, again, I'm proud of those stories in particular because, most people listening to this, if they're doing a follow-up campaign, they might stop reaching out after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? Very few people hang in there for 3 years or 5 years. And so that's really where the money is made and where you're going to get like the best of the best.
Yes, that consistency and the follow-up is so critical, right, for success.
Yep.
Changing you from the rest. So assuming you have access to those products, what are the steps right now? I mean, you need to source the products, you need to obviously promote them. What are the steps that you usually take on the sales marketing side?
Yeah, so let's just say you go through the steps that I just mentioned, right? You pitch yourself appropriately, you follow up appropriately, and the supplier finally says, okay, Corey, I'm willing to work with you, right? What's the next step? The next step is to then get a hold of the pricing for the products that they have. Now, if you're working with a brand, right, and I use the term brand and manufacturer interchangeably. So if you're working with a brand, they're just going to have their products, right? That brand's products. So typically it's a pretty easy process to go through and see, okay, well, of the products that this brand manufactures, what is the wholesale pricing that they're offering me? And what is the pricing on Amazon? Now, if you're working with a distributor is going to carry a bunch of different brands, right? So that distributor might have a big, massive catalog of maybe even thousands of products that now you've got to go in and find the diamonds in the rough, right? You've got to find those small handful of products that are profitable to sell on Amazon. So, but regardless of whether you're buying from a brand or a distributor, the research process is the same. You're essentially, again, comparing their pricing to the pricing on Amazon, and you're seeing if there's enough room to make a profit while also factoring in the demand for that product, right? Because just because you can get a product at a profitable price doesn't mean that people are actually buying it. So it's finding that cross between, okay, this product is profitable, and okay, I think it's going to sell enough times per month for it to be worth my time. Does that make sense? And that, there's obviously some nuance and a deeper dive. We could go into that actual analysis process. But luckily, there's tools out there, multiple tools that I use that just by plugging in, a couple of numbers, it'll basically spit out, hey, this is how much your expected profit will be. Or, hey, this is how many units you should be able to sell per month based on the current demand and based on the current competition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But we know that Amazon it's crowded out there, right? It's very competitive. We are very niche, right? So just putting your products on Amazon doesn't cut it anymore, right? So how do you roll the products? How do you make sure that you're generating enough sales for this product line?
Yeah. So again, that's the beauty of the wholesale model is a lot of the marketing is already built in, right? So we have tools that will show us, hey, this product sold 200 units last month, right? So a lot of what we're doing, like I said, is just piggybacking on that existing demand. So if I look at a listing and I see, okay, well, this product sells 200 units a month, there's only 3 people selling it. So if I start to sell it, now there's 4 people. So theoretically, those 200 sales per month get split between the 4 of us, right? So that means I'm going to sell about 50 units per month. Now, it really depends on how on the nature of the relationship that we have with the brand. So if the brand that we're selling, if they're interested in a deeper partnership and they want us to run ads and help touch up their listings and pull some of these marketing levers that will actually grow sales, well, then we're going to need some sort of exclusivity from them, right? Because on our end, it's like, well, yeah, we'll help you run ads and we'll help you do XYZ on Amazon. But if I do all this work and you continue to let these 3 other people sell this product, well, they're going to benefit from my work. So it's not fair to me, right? So there's got to be, it's a give and take. Now, remember how I mentioned earlier, my method, the best method is just get a foot in the door and just start selling the product, right? So usually the best approach is you get a foot in the door with these brands or these distributors, you start to sell the product. It's not a very deep partnership to start, right? You're literally just a retailer. But the goal is as you place that first purchase order and as you're growing your relationship with this supplier and as you're doing purchase order number 2 and purchase order number 3, that's when I start to really try and build a deeper relationship, ideally with a decision maker there. And I do that by asking questions, because what's not effective is me going to a brand, even if maybe we've done, some business together and I have a good relationship. What's not very effective is me calling that brand and saying, hey, you've got 5 other people selling your product. I'd like to be the only person, so you should give me exclusivity because I can help you with XYZ, right? A lot of times they're going to say, okay, well, sure, but I don't really see how that helps us. But what's a much, much better approach is you can say that without saying it, right? And I like to do that by asking questions. So if I have a good rapport with this brand, maybe I'm working with the owner directly, because it might be a smaller brand, I might just call that owner out of the blue on a Tuesday at 2:00 and say, hey man, just checking in, wanted to see how things are going. Hey, by the way, I noticed that you guys have 5 different people selling your products on Amazon. Did you know that? And a lot of times you'd be shocked to hear how many of these brands, they don't even know what's happening on Amazon. It's like they bury their head in the sand and they just don't pay attention to it. So so many times I ask a brand owner that, hey, you've got 5 people selling your product, or you've got 17, and some brands have 50 people selling their products. I might ask, well, hey, you've got 52 people selling just this one product. Were you even aware of that? And they might say something like, oh yeah, we've been trying to fix that, but we've been focused on other things, blah, blah, blah. And so I might say, okay, well, just out of curiosity, would your life be easier if you had, say, 3 people selling your product, or would it be easier if you had 53 people? Because you and I both know the number of units sold is going to be the same, whether you've got 3 people, whether there's 50 people. But it seems to me like your life would be easier if you only had to manage 3 people instead of 50. Like, is that a fair assumption to make? And, then they start, well, yeah, actually, when you say it like that, that makes more sense, right? And so it's asking questions of, well, are you sure that the way things are currently going is how you want it to go? And of course, there's some brand owners, they're going to be completely clueless. They don't care. They're not receptive. In which case, it's like, okay, well, we'll just continue somewhat of a transactional, just retail relationship. But for the brands that do get it and that do want to change and that do see, oh yeah, we have an opportunity to improve on Amazon, we just don't know how to do it. That's when we can say to them, well, okay, let's put a game plan together for how we can help you make these changes in a way that benefits both parties. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And this is just everything that you shared is just one scenario. I mean, I talked to a lot of brands that they, fighting, knockoffs and counterfeiting, in Amazon, and that's another whole story together, which is just killing their business. So that's another category of a problem to have, right? And so, from the brand perspective or from the distributor's perspective, what are the criteria for selecting a wholesale partner?
Yeah, and this is a really good question, and one that I wish more people would ask, because there's so many brands and so many even just up and coming distributors that they're starting to get traction. They know that they should be on Amazon, but they don't really know how to approach it. So a lot of brands, their approach is, well, we're just going to sell to anyone and everyone, right? And so sure, they make a lot of short-term cash by selling those products at wholesale to, 50 different people, but it creates such a massive headache for them long-term. It's such a short-sighted approach. So what these brands should do, whether they're going to be selling on Amazon themselves along with a couple of partners, or whether they're just going to have third parties do it, they want to make sure incentives are aligned, right? That's the biggest thing. Because in the scenario that I just mentioned, which most brands do, they sell to anyone and everyone, and they look up 2 years later and they've got to clean up the mess. What they should do is sit down and say, okay, one, how many resellers do we want to have, right? For most brands, one really good partnered reseller with incentives aligned is going to be the easiest approach for them because they only have to manage one person, right? But now, really big brands that are doing huge numbers, they might want 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to kind of spread out that risk. But the first question they should answer is, how many resellers do we want? The second question they want to answer is, well, what are we willing to do on Amazon and what are we not willing to do? Because if the brand wants a high degree of control and they want to, say yes to every single thing that's going on Amazon and they want all the control, then honestly, they might be better suited selling on Amazon themselves and having a management company manage their account, right? Almost like a managed service. And then from there, they got to decide what's the goal, right? And if they do decide to go with a reseller or a small group of value-added resellers, you just want to look at how they make their money, right? Because how I make my money when I approach a brand, this is one of the reasons our pitch is so strong is we don't charge a fee, right? There are people in the Amazon space that it's like, hey, we'll sell your product. We'll manage all your Amazon listings. We will even spend our own money on ads. So it's 100% hands-off for you because I make my money on the sale of each product. Therefore, incentives are aligned because I'm not taking a retainer. I'm not taking a management fee. I only make money when I sell product. So obviously I'm incentivized to sell more product. You see what I mean? So sure. In my case, it involves me just negotiating a really good wholesale price from the brand to where after my overhead and after my advertising, all my costs are baked in, that wholesale price still allows me to make a good profit in selling the individual units on Amazon, where we're both incentivized to actually grow the size of the pie on Amazon.
Yeah, interesting. And Corey, in terms of the BrandRocket strategy, I know you're focusing on tools and automotive brands. What are the specific of this specific niche? Why you decided to focus on it? What are the main challenges on it? I mean, going live on Amazon?
Yeah, so and this is to say too, right? There might be some brand owners listening to this podcast who might think, well, I'm not a tool or automotive brand, so maybe I'm not a good fit for Corey and his model. I would say if you're listening to this and you have maybe an idea that you'd at least like to discuss this and you're not in that category, I'd say still reach out to me because I'm very well connected in this space and I can connect you to other people who specialize in your category. Now, the reason I like tools and automotive is because their niches on Amazon or their categories on Amazon that a lot of people just don't necessarily flock to, right? So when you're a brand new Amazon seller, typically you're going to chase after grocery products, or you're going to try to sell beauty products. You're going to try to sell electronics, these quote unquote sexy categories, right? That a lot of people want to sell. Not many people are waking up one day and thinking, well, hey, I want to go sell automotive car parts on Amazon. Or, hey, I want to go sell, adhesives on Amazon. Not many people are interested in these types of products. And so because of that, a lot of these brands in the tool or automotive categories, they're just not as competitive as far as people reaching out to them. And another reason too, and this is just based on my limited experience, but a lot of the brand owners and even the distributors in the tool and automotive space, they're old school, right? They might be in their 60s or their 70s and they don't really know how Amazon works, or they don't want to deal with it, or they tried it before and they don't want to mess with it. So that's where someone like me can provide a lot of value to somebody who maybe has a very strong business outside of Amazon, but now they want to actually build that channel as well.
Amazing. So you saw an opportunity both on the brand supplier side and also on the, let's say, category within Amazon, like a less competitive, more specialized type of niche that you can provide additional value and differentiate yourself. So that makes a lot of sense. And I love the focus, right? I mean, you're focusing on this and the majority of your business, and that's created a big impact. Nice. Corey, I know that you would like to offer your course to our audience and listeners. Can you share more details about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've heard me talk about the wholesale business model pretty much this entire interview, and I still think adamantly it is the best way to sell on Amazon. And so for any of the audience out there, if you're interested in starting a wholesale business, or maybe you're already in the e-commerce space and you want to add this to your tool belt as either another channel or another model, then I encourage you go to freewholesaleguide.com that is going to be my 100% free 5-day course. So it's going to be delivered to you over email, one email per day over 5 days. And the beauty of this free guide is it's broken down into what I call the 5 pillars of Amazon Wholesale. All right. So each day focuses on a specific pillar. Day 1 is finding suppliers. Day 2 is contacting suppliers. Day 3 is sourcing products. Day 4 is shipping and logistics. And then day 5 is leveraging virtual talent to scale. All right. Hiring folks from overseas to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And again, that's freewholesaleguide.com. I've been told, from a lot of people, it's been a really helpful resource. So hopefully your audience gets some value out of that.
Nice. So thank you for sharing that. And how people can find you, Corey?
Yeah. So best place to find me, I would go over to my podcast, right? So we have, I think, 92 episodes branded as the Amazon Wholesale Podcast. But just 2 weeks ago, we actually rebranded it to the Corey Ganim Show. All right. So that's going to be on YouTube. That's going to be on any podcast platform. Just search either the Amazon Wholesale Podcast or the Corey Ganim Show. And we've got, like I said, 92 interviews with successful wholesale sellers. And now we're branching out and interviewing folks, not just in the Amazon space, but more in the general e-commerce entrepreneurial space as well.
Great, Corey. Amazing. Anything else you want to add?
That's it. I mean, I really enjoyed the conversation. I'd say my one biggest piece of advice for people that are listening and that might be interested in this business model, just know that it's a sales and follow-up business. That's pretty much all it is, right? If you're persistent, if you're a good salesperson, what I tell people is like, if you have a sales background and you come into this business, you are already positioned to do really well because it's all sales. It's follow-up, it's rapport building, relationship building, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and that's a great summary. I mean, the idea is great, but it requires a lot of attention. There is no passive income here. There's
No.
right? A lot of work, a lot of follow-ups, and this is just what makes the difference between just being a mediocre average to being a successful entrepreneur, right? So it was really insightful, and I learned a lot. Corey, thank you so much. Wish you all the best, and we'll share all the details, of course, in the show notes. And thank you again for sharing the course with our listeners. And love to do this again at some point of time, sharing more of your knowledge, and wish you all the best. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. And if you could share this with just one person, it would make all the difference. Are you looking to accelerate your sales with the power of shoppable video? Explore Vimeo, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimeo at www.vimeo.net, that's VIMMI.net, where you can start with a free for life package. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.